Had some good news last night. I daily check the fire brigade for Victoria's website, the CFA's website, to look for when the end of the fire danger period is coming. If you don't know, that's a period on Australian summer where you can't have bonfires unless you've got a permit. And I choose not to get a permit because I think it's dangerous to have a bonfire, regardless of whether you've got a permit or not, during the fire danger period. Anyway, the fire danger period is coming to an end in just under a week, which means that I can start having bonfires again with impunity. And quite frankly, the conditions are right. It hasn't been warm for a long time, so I'm very excited about that because it means that I can finally crack on with getting the property tidied up at speed. I create industrial amounts of garden waste, too much to go in a garden waste bin, too much to compost, and it would mean going to the tip, 3 or 4 times a week. So it means that I can get a lot done and just get rid of the waste. The reason I do this partly is to maintain the formal garden, but also more importantly to help maintain the property in a standard that helps protect against the effects of bushfire, should a bushfire come through. So it's not just aesthetics, it's also trying to keep my property and the things in my property safe. Anyway, so what I'm going to do today is I think I'm going to start in my formal garden, which is essentially the garden inside this fence, which runs around a portion of the house, and then I'll work my way out. As I'm saying, this is the fence line which goes around what I call the formal garden, which is where I have my flower beds. What I think I'm going to do is just start here, work my way around clockwise till I get back to the beginning. My first job is just tidying up these warty plants like liverwort, lungwort. Not sure what sort of wart it is, but they're going over, so I'll tidy that up. Move on to the next thing. Next in line is this fennel. As mentioned previously, back in the UK we had a fennel and I would let it go to seed and harvest the seeds and dry them and have my own supply of fennel seeds for cooking. But here the parrots eat them all. So I'm just going to take this back down to the ground. On this side of the fence line I'm growing what I call my edible hedge. On this side I've got some rosemary plants which I took from cuttings, and on the other side I've got some fruit bushes, mostly currants and blueberries at the moment, and that's largely for the birds. What I'm going to do now though is just take some of the height down of this rosemary hedge to encourage it to divide, because I'm trying to avoid it getting too woody at the bottom, which is what rosemary can be prone to do. Since I want this to form a hedge, I want it to sort of bush up, not sort of grow up. So that's next on the agenda. Next stop, come to the weather station, my magnolia section. I need to take the stems of the lilies down, and also there's this native plant which sprouted, which has now died, so I'm going to remove that. Next on the agenda is this oregano plant. behind the house now, and one of my tasks for here is to prune back the grapevines to 2-leaf buds. These ones down here have already lost most of their leaves, so you can't really see them, but and actually they didn't go too mad this year. Sometimes they grow very, very vigorously, but so because they haven't, that should be a bit of an easier task. The other task I want to do for this section of the garden is there's these little plants here, they're very pretty, but my intention is to turn this eventually into raised beds. So what that would involve me doing is digging down to ground level, removing all this soil and putting raised beds in for my salad and herb garden. Tidy this up, making it look a lot more presentable, and also not have this wilderness quite so close to the house. But these plants are lovely, so what I want to do is dig them up and add them to my wild meadow sort of area, which is the liminal space between my front lawn and the woodlands. But I probably won't get around to doing that today. I think that might be a job too far. And also I want to mow that section before I plant these out. I don't want to plant them then mow them anyway, so that might have to wait, but I can do the grapevine. Okay, now we're back around at the hardy geranium bed, and what I've done here is plant out these 2 dwarf grasses, and I'm now going to just give this cotoneaster a bit of a prune. As you may know, I don't actually like this plant, but it does have 2 benefits. It does have quite nice autumn colour, and it produces these red berries. I can find some that the parrots really enjoy. That's why there's not so many on there now. The parrots, again, have eaten them all. Good morning. You find me heading over to my potting shed because now is the time for me to start thinking about planting out my autumn-winter crop. I have to sort of wait till the end of the butterfly season, because what I mostly plant are brassica and brassica type plants that I've lost so many crops to the voracious caterpillars. And at the moment I can only grow in tubs in a very small scale, so you know, they can destroy my crop in a matter of days. So I'm heading over to my potting shed to assess the seed situation, to see what I've got and if there's anything additional I have to buy. And this is always quite a nice job to sort of think about what my autumn-winter crops for the year ahead are going to be. My seeds now live in my gardening filing cabinet. So at the top here I've got things like fertilizers and any weed killers, and in here I've got my gardening sundries, which includes my tin of, excuse the noise. You may or may not know that we retrieved this filing cabinet from the tip. It was another tip find, along with this tin, this box in which we keep our flammable materials to try and help protect them against bushfire. So I'm very pleased with that. Anyway, back to the point. This is my biscuit tin of seeds. I'm a member of something called the Diggers Club, which is an Australian gardening institution, and so most of my seeds come from there. In here I've got spring, summer, autumn, winter seeds. So as you can see, quite a lot of them are opened and have used. What I'm going to do now is go through and sort out the ones that I tend to grow autumn, winter, see what I've got, see what my gaps are, and then fill those gaps. I'm glad I did that because I only have these 4 packets and there's not a lot in some of them. I usually grow a lot more than that. There's quite a nice sort of dwarf kale and other more sort of Asian plants that I like to grow. But I have got these 2 types of spinach, so that'll be nice to be getting on with. And this lettucey type of plant, and this Asian green. So, you know, I know you can buy spinach, but this is sort of different type of spinach. I like to grow things that you can't really buy. I don't really see the point of growing things that you can easily buy because I don't think this works out much cheaper, if at all. So that's what I like to do. Anyway, what I'm going to do now is at least get these going, and I'll get them in my cold frame, and then I'll look to fill in the gaps. Just a little word about my system. I have the tubs I plant the seeds into on my shelving here, along with some other gardening stuff and chainsawy stuff. And on my potting bench, I now have assembled the 4 I need. I have underneath some extra fertilizer I might add, my potting tools, including the trowel I'm going to use. And at the side of the bench I have this bin, which includes my potting mix, which is a mixture of compost for seedlings and sheep manure. And the bottom of the bin was cut off so that it's not fully enclosed. There is the ability for air to get in at the bottom. Then what I do is I just scoop it out, put it into my tubs, fill them, plant out my seeds, write out my labels. Job's done. Then when I'm done, like I am now, any spillages I can just sweep back into the bin. Anyway, I'll just make up a new batch of that, but before I go, here's what we've achieved. I just need to water them and then get them in the cold frame. Now that that's done and the missing seeds have been bought, I'll show you them when they arrive. I'm down in the orchard and I just thought I'd give you a quick glimpse of how it's currently looking. There we go. If I spin round, you can see all the pesky trees we didn't want are gone. The fence is gone. All the posts and stakes we didn't need have gone. There's a couple of little loose ends left to go. Like, for example, we'll need to move this wood here. There's a couple of jams in the corners, one just there, where posts went up to support the poles. They need to come out. There's only 2 of those. Sort of related but slightly differently. Once the leaves have dropped, I'm going to tidy these trees up. I haven't done much with those. And you may be able to see, if I sort of zoom you in a bit, all the removed poles and stakes are down there. And this is some metal cladding, which is for the project that all of this was about. But I'll discuss that more with you later. What I'm up to now is continuing work to remove this hump. You can't really see it, but this bit here is very humpy. It's from where we had a trench pipe dug, and then the pipe installed. If I go down the way, you might be able to see a bit better. The light's very flat, there's not much contrast. Anyway, believe me, there's a hump here. It's very minor, but it's enough to render mowing over it a little tricky. So what I have been trying to do is dig this down a bit to generate material to fill the post holes. I did one as a sort of tester and that worked quite well, but I've had to stop because it's actually been quite dry and the soil goes like concrete. So I've waited for some rain. It has rained, so the soil's a lot softer. I'm going to try this pickaxe. I wish we had a mattock. It's one of the main tools we're lacking in our collection and they're so handy, so maybe we'll have to look at rectifying that. Alternatively, I've got the spade, and if none of that works, I can maybe try using my hand trowel, but I'm not, because of the knees, not that confident getting that close to the ground at the moment. Anyway, we'll see how we go. Well, that was so straightforward. This soil is lovely, so light and fluffy. Once it's wet, when it's dry it's like concrete, but as I say, at the moment it's so fluffy. I think it probably helps that it's been dug up and then put back in. But I generated a bucket, and now what I'm going to do is go and start filling the extra post holes.